Hi, art historians. So, at this point in time, you have now finished week 1 of our course. So that means you've completed modules 1 and 2. And I want to start sending out these videos once we've completely wrapped up a few units by week, where I kind of clarify some things that I'm noticing, give credit in discussion posts, and kind of just really summarize what we just covered. We're moving very fast and we're covering a lot of learning materials, so it's kind of nice to just reflect and kind of evaluate where we're sitting at. So this week you learned about Paleolithic, Mesolithic, and Neolithic art. And I know some of these works probably are very similar in terms of color, in terms of style or shape or approach or material for that matter as well. So do know that there will be more varieties coming up. However, before you started exploring those learning materials, you responded to a brief intro where you explained what looking at art meant to you. And I want to give a shout out to some people. I wrote down some quotes from their discussions that I think just totally summarize the answer to this question really, really well. And not to say that everybody else did a great job. I'll be, kind of calling people out for their awesome work with each of these summary videos as we progress through the rest of the semester, or half semester for that matter. So first, I want to say that Will B, you mentioned that there was meaning in everything, and I couldn't agree more. Artwork is like kind of everywhere if you think about it. I mean, and kind of in the same nature, that sort of means art history is everywhere, doesn't it? I don't know. But anyway, when you think about seeing art in the world and how there's meaning in so much visual in the visual culture of us as a species, it really gives more impact and more importance to taking a course like this and learning more about it. So I want to say that's an awesome quote. Next, we have Ashley D, and she wrote that art empowers us to become more connected with different parts of the globe and others throughout time. And that is just such a perfectly succinct way of summarizing, like, the entirety of art, the study of art history, from global prehistory we are right now all the way through modern times, with works that you can find at the MoMA or any other modern or contemporary art museum that we have around the world. Connecting with others through art is so interesting. I mean, if you think about it, people make artwork all the time, whether they consider themselves an artist or not. And so the fact that we as humans have that kind of innate creativity is really special. Here is my cat Moon interrupting our little video recording. Hi, little bud. I just spent all day teaching at the high school, so I think this guy and my other cat are missing me a little bit, so he might pop his head back in. But regardless, I want to give Brian F. some credit here. He wrote that, as I am not an art major, I do believe art is life. And so I thought this was really cool because not everybody taking this class is an art major, and I understand and respect that totally. If you want to switch, I wouldn't be mad about it. But art really is life. Like I said before, art is everywhere. You can find it in everything. I mean, I have art here on my kitchen table with this vase I picked up from Goodwill, and there's even art in the way that the typography and graphic design is done at the 24-hour fitness that I have in the town next over for me. It's a gym, by the way, if anybody doesn't have that chain out where you are. But I love that quote, art is life. Also makes me think of the Ted Lasso, Danny Rojas quote, where he says, ball is life, or soccer is life. No, he says, football is life. That's what it was. And so I think of the same thing, how excited he was. Football is life, art is life. Now, Lauren F. wrote that social connection is a good way to learn how to appreciate the beauty of the real world materials. And I have to totally agree with that. The fact that this chapter is filled with very consistent materials, a lot of nature-inspired media being used in this artwork, it kind of is a different beauty to it, right? When you're using such simple colors, such simple forms, it's amazing what creativity and what beautiful works can be created from it. And last but not least, James R., you wrote that art tells a story, and I couldn't agree more. The best part to me about art history is the story. I mean, what happened? Who made this? Thinking of the person who had these ideas and these concepts and put it into visual culture is just outstanding, and to know that background and story behind it, to me, makes art history just the best subject to learn. And I have a lot of students too who say that they're not good at history, but they're really good at art history. And for me, there's that visual component that is so important here. It's not just learning a bunch of dates about a bunch of battles, about a bunch of people who fought in a war. It's seeing the visual representation or the aftermath, seeing the effect of that war on and just culture in general. I mean, this is a really important point to make. And so congrats to those 5 people. I think you did a really great job. And everyone else, you'll hear a name shout out as we go through the semester. So the next thing I want to do is just look through the quiz questions and kind of picking out the ones that people may have struggled with, and just clarify some of the details and maybe why you might have gotten those incorrect. So the first one, and I did get a few emails about this as well, was the difference in post and lintel. Now, the question answer in the quiz was a little tricky because it was post and roof, and technically speaking, that's not correct. The correct term is post and lintel. And now we're talking about the site of Stonehenge, of course. So when we think of Stonehenge, first and foremost, let's break down the vocab. One single block of huge stone is called a megalith. So you can say that Stonehenge is made up of megaliths. Now, when you have one megalith, another megalith, and they're both vertical, and one third megalith that's horizontal on top, now we have something called a trilithon, which is a group of 3 stones. When we have the 2 verticals with that horizontal, that itself is called post and lintel. And so what we have is 2 posts and 1 lintel. You might not hear the term post again, but lintel may come up. We talk about lintels over doorways as we move later into art history. Now, the correct answer for this question was mortise and tenon, and that's like a little bit of a tricky one, mostly because it's not the first thing you think of. You think post and lintel. Mortise and tenon is the way that those objects are fit together. So if we have 2 posts and 1 lintel, what you have is a tenon fit into an indentation in the stone above it, a mortise. So we've got a mortise and a tenon. Same thing on both sides. So hopefully that clears up some things for some people. The next thing I wanted to bring up was the composite perspective response for the multiple choice questions. Now, I made up a couple of these. I don't know what optical perspective is. That might be a vocab word and it might not. It's not correct. The reason that 2-point perspective is not correct is because that is when we're working on a 2D surface, and we've got 2 points where everything is kind of converging in there, and linear perspective is on a horizontal line of some sort. The reason composite perspective is correct is because we see a lot of times in ancient artwork where we have a very frontal view of something with also a turned view of something. So a great example of this is a really small little bison that was found, and I'll put this picture in too. Oh, we've got some crazy cats here today, folks. This is Dolly right behind me. She's my soul cat, and she's gonna live forever. I'm super pumped about it. But anyway, so when we think about this composite perspective, the best example is this little sculpture of a bull, where his whole entire body is faced this way, but his head is facing completely back behind him. And now we're working in such an early age of art history that this combination of that twisted or composite perspective is so impressive, and we have to give credit where credit's due. And so that's why that vocab word is attached to that concept. And last but not least, I wanted to find for you what visual evidence means. And so this is almost weirdly tricky, but you don't realize how simple it is. So in your essay, short answer questions, not essay, really short answer, on a quiz, ask for visual evidence. It's asking you to talk about what you're seeing. So it's not the story behind it. It's not the context or the function. We don't know those things based on what we're looking at all times. But we can say this object is red. This object has dots. This object has diagonal lines, right? That makes a little bit more sense. So let's move right along into discussing a little bit more about these short answers. I gave full credit if you answered it and took the quiz, so don't worry if what you're hearing you think you might have done incorrectly and you're worried you lost points. You didn't. If you answered the question, I gave you full credit. But with these kind of notes going forward, you might lose points, so pay attention. So for these short answers, as you see in the directions, bulleted points are not acceptable. It needs to be written in a paragraph form. And I'm noticing that a lot of you who are submitting didn't really fully explain the question. You might have explained half of it. You might have explained the first bit. You might not have expanded quite enough in your answer. In that case, I wrote, might need more info in a comment on Canvas for you. So please really shoot for like, I don't know, 4 to 5 sentences if you can for those short answers, which leads me to my next point. These quizzes are timed, so please make sure you give yourself enough time. You want to really make sure that you've got all your materials ready to go, you're ready to take your test, you're in a really good testing spot, you're in a good testing zone mentally as well. I'd hate to not get the chance to read your reflections on artworks in those short answer responses if you don't end up having enough time. So just keep that in mind. All right, so next thing, let's talk about, didn't lose points for that. I also noticed a few of those short answers for some people on quizzes were cut off. So again, that time management thing is going to be really kind of clutch going forward. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the self-guided template. So I posted this announcement with a self-guided template. If you already submitted any self-guided exploration materials, do not resubmit. It is fine. However, this template will make it a little bit more clear as to what you're researching or what you're exploring, how much that point value is, and then you really know what is expected of you. So use that template in that announcement going forward, pretty please. Thank you. Now, the last thing that I want to say, last but not least, of course, is the notes sheet. I have gotten a lot of emails about this, and I've spoken to some other Lindenwood professors who are teaching this course and some other survey courses that have been redesigned, and they've been getting the same feedback as well. So what I've done is I spoke to my tech team at my high school about the best approach for this. Apologies for the noise in the background. Moon's having zoomies. So what I've decided to do is to make a PDF file with text boxes in it so you know exactly where to write and type. Now, if you want to print these out and handwrite your notes sheets, that is totally fine. Or if you want to try to use this template, also fine. If you've already got it figured out, keep doing what you're doing. If you need something that's going to work a little bit more better for you, then hopefully this might be something that accomplishes that goal. So, speaking of which, I have now attached this to this Canvas announcement, so you have access to it. And otherwise, I really hope you enjoyed all of the learning materials and all of the stuff that we went through for this week. I'm really excited to get into the ancient Near East for week number 2, and I will get into a little bit more of what we're going to do when I summarize that week as well. So, as you know, remember for those note sheets, just a quick reminder, I need 1 note sheet per core work and 1 or 2 supplemental. So say, for example, Unit 1 had 6 core works. That means you're turning in 6 note sheets, and maybe it had 4 supplemental, maybe like 1 or 2. You pick. In order to get full credit, this needs to be a little bit more consistent as we finish up the class. So just please keep that in mind. For example, we move on to later units. There might only be 4 core works. There might be no supplemental work. So it really depends on what learning materials are present in that unit. I hope this is really clear. I hope this clarifies some things, and I think I need to wrap up this video before all hell breaks loose in my house with these 2 cats. So apologies for all of the noise, but I hope that this is very helpful. I hope these resources that I've reformatted can make approaching this class a little bit easier and a little bit more easy to manage. You know that we are working at an 8-week class, so things are going quickly. Try not to fall behind. Keep up, and then you won't be scrambling at the end to try to get all of your work in. Remember, you're trying to accrue points. The more points you get, the higher grade you're going to be awarded. So think about what you would like to achieve in this class, choose your resources appropriately, and then finish up what you want to. If you have any questions, please reach out via email, kcarpino@lindenwood.edu, and I'll see you soon, folks. Bye!